Hey, we are recording. I'm David Brownstein. Welcome to the 2020 Music Industry Evolution Summit. My guest today is Debra Russell. Hello, Debra.
Hello, David. So good to see you.
Good to see you too. Good to see you too. Glad you could join us and me here. For those of you who don't know Debra, you will soon, and I'm going to read her bio for a little bit of bio deliciousness. With decades of experience in the entertainment industry, certified business coach Debra Russell blends a unique understanding of the music and entertainment industry with sophisticated tools from the world of business, coaching, NLP, and hypnosis. She will give you concrete methods to craft success on your terms. Welcome, Debra.
Thank you.
So before we get into some of the business at hand, what was your first musical love, interest, inspiration? What was the first time that music got in you?
My very first. So you have to understand, I am the baby of four. My father played classical violin from the time he was 9 and composed. We were required to learn piano, and I started learning from the age of 6, and my hands were so tiny that I could maybe span a third.
Right. Wow.
And right. So I would think though, and so I had all of those influences, classical music from my dad and my older siblings, rock and roll from my older siblings, folk music from my dad. My dad was a big folk music fan. In fact, my very first concert when I was 9 was a Pete Seeger Clearwater Festival.
Oh, cool.
Where Joan Baez was also playing.
Oh,
It
great.
was quite an amazing show, even though I didn't know I was 9. So, but I remember when I was about 7, my dad gave me an album, which was the Symphony of Peter and the Wolf, where every character had its own instrument and its own through line, and I loved that album, and I played it until it was unplayable. But yeah, I mean, I can't remember a time when I didn't have music as a huge part of my life. My my lullaby every night was my dad doing his fingering exercises on the violin. Bum, ba-dum,
That
bum, bum, ba-dum, bum. I mean, just over and
wow.
over and over again. Put me to
That's
sleep.
a good sort of sound loop mantra just to relax too. That's
Yep.
beautiful. That's beautiful.
Yep.
And how did you then segue from that musical stuff into business coaching for music folks?
Oh gosh, that's a much longer story, which I will try
I
not to
mean,
bore you too much with.
the shorter story of, I'd say.
Well, I came up in film, television, and theater. I started acting when I was 12, and it became my love, and I pursued it. But everyone in my life was musicians. All my friends were musicians. My siblings, everybody. I had made it out to California, had the funding for my first feature as director, and I got sick. And I was very, very ill for a very long time. I was bedridden for 3 years, housebound for 8 years. So when people are whining about being shut-ins, I'm like, hold my beer. You're whining about 3 months? 8 years, I'm telling you. So,
wow.
so, and because of that, I knew I would never be able to go back to being the producer director, which was my goal in film. And like an athlete blowing out their knee at career-ending injury, there was just no way. And I wandered around. I did a lot of different things, as much as my energy would allow. And coaching discovered me through a lot of interesting serendipities. When you kind of when I track it back, all the things that fell into place for me.
Right, you can
to
connect
be
the
a coach.
breadcrumbs in retrospect, yeah.
Yeah, and when I started coaching, it was like, oh my God, this is it. And that was in 2001.
Okay.
And I've honestly never looked back.
Wow, that's great. That's great.
So when I decided who am I going to focus on in my practice, well, who are my people? My
Who are
people
your
are all
people?
musicians and people in the arts. And so, yeah.
These are our people. True.
Yep.
That's
That's it.
great. That's great. That's great. That's cool. So here's the thing. On the summit, we've been focusing on ways that musicians can make more money or make more music, or just how to coming up with strategies in the post-COVID music world. And the road is over for now, or it'll be back in a year, or whenever it's going to be back. We can't go be in studios. It's a different kind of thing. So musicians are working at home and collaborating at home. And when you and I were talking about what we're going to talk about today, you said, it's a great time for musicians to get their sort of the business structures together. And I think it's
Exactly.
hugely important. And so we'll talk about that in general, and we'll go into the one point you want to get into. But give us just what's your take, and go, Debra.
So I understand that the cash imperative is critical, and I recommend that artists really look for other sources right now. I mean, sure, you can do streaming, you can do all of that, you can be working with your fans. If you're really just starting out, that's not going to work for you. If you've been doing this for a while, it may work to a certain degree, but I think people are a little Zoom tired, and so that can work against you. But
You mean for streaming?
right, for streaming. And my feeling is this is not forever. It might be for another year, it might even be for another 2 years. We have no way of knowing, but it won't be forever. We're going, 2018, the flu, it passed, it ended. It's going to end.
Right.
And we'll go back to life as pre-pandemic, somewhat normal. We'll be gathering again. We'll be watching concerts again. But here's something that will not change. If you take this time to set your systems up for your business so that when things open back up again, you can not only hit the ground running with the business as it was, but you can hit the ground running with the business of your vision. A business set up for growth, for expansion, for you going to the next level, whatever that is for you. People wait to build systems and structures for growth until they need them. And it's too late.
When do they need them? Like when they're on the road and their money's coming
Right.
in and their manager's going, hey, what do you want me to do about your rent and your car? And they go, I don't know, you figure it
Exactly.
out, right?
Exactly. Or they've done all this marketing and they've worked really hard and they've set up this tour, and then they come home and they've got nothing because there was no system that was going to continue working while they were out delivering.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
Right. So so maybe you maybe you were good enough to market your first 3 gigs on the tour, and then the last half of the tour, what, you just ran out of time.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
If you don't have systems set up, and you're not going to be able to set them up once you're on the road. In fact, you're not going to be able to set them up once you've booked the gig, because that's your countdown.
Mm-hmm.
That's when you need to be counting down on your system to the delivery date, to your fulfillment date, the date of the concert.
What do you mean countdown? You mean there are steps they should be taking when the first gig is booked?
Yes. So I would suggest that there are marketing steps for an artist to take 4 to 8 weeks, depending on, your reach, before any show, minimum.
Right.
Even if the show is at the bar down the street and you only have 100 people on your mailing list,
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
there are steps for you to take to promote that gig. And if you want to start getting bigger gigs, you've got to fill the seats. You've
Right.
got to fill the seats at the smaller venues before the larger venues are going to take a look at you.
Right.
And
Right.
if you don't have a marketing plan, you're not going to fill the seats.
Okay, so I agree. The touring will be back, and that. But so, what are some structures now? I mean, some of the artists on the summit and people I know are planning to be touring again, and some of them are like, man, I'd love to be in that. I'd love to have those problems. And they're still developing their artistry, trying to break through, figure out how to make money. So what are some things that the home recording people or the songwriters or, you know, artists who are not ready to be touring, even when the road's open in a year,
Right.
what are some of the structures they should be putting into place?
Well, for example, I have a client who is a composer for television and film. And, you know, when he started working with me, he just would put his head down and work on the project. But then he wouldn't have a project when he wouldn't have a next project when he lifted his head back up. Because again, he didn't have systems set up. Every business owner needs to have systems set up. And I'm going to let me give you a broad wash.
Great.
So the number one system, which we're going to talk about in a bit more detail because it's the meta system, it's the system inside which all other things live, is your time management system.
Yeah, absolutely.
So understanding and creating, developing your time management skills, as well as developing a time management structure that really, really works the way you work organically, not somebody else's idea imposed upon you, creates everything else, makes everything else work better, right? Time management. But then there's also your space, your physical organization, and your finances, your day-to-day money management systems. And I can't tell you how many people have said to me, well, when I have money coming in, I'll build those systems. You build those systems, and I have seen it over and over again. I don't know why this works, but it does. You build those systems, more money flows in. It's as if you say, okay, come join me. Here, I've got a special place for you. And the money just starts to flow in. It's miraculous. I don't know why it works. It just does. So again, if you wait until you need a system, it's already too late. So you want to build the system for your vision, for the vision of your business, for the vision of your life, not for the life you have now. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. It does.
What else? Your creative systems. That would mean, how do you track your songs? Are they, you know, how do you track which ones need to be registered, and who are they registered with, and where's the link, and what, you know, how long is it, and what genre is it in, and who are the people you need waivers from so that you have clear rights, and, you know, all of that stuff, to have some way of tracking that. That's a system. For marketing, right? Having systems for your social media, having systems for your booking, so that when you're ready to bring in a booking agent or a social media person, or even just a virtual or a in-house assistant, training looks like this. Here's the operations manual. Let me know if you have any questions. Right?
Wait. You know, I gotta say, I'm kind of going. You just said so many things that I'm not doing that I should be doing. I'm kind of like, help me, help me.
I'd love to work with you, David.
Yeah, that'd be fun.
I know.
But so here's the thing is like, I mean, well, here's a little part that gets lost in me. I was going, wait a minute, but when do I get to make music? When do I get to write? When do I get, you know what I mean?
But isn't that then built into your time management system?
Yeah.
Where you actually set the time aside and protect it like it's sacred time for creating your music.
Yeah.
Right? That's part of the time management system. Now, there's a couple of other really critical systems. Your contact management system. How often have you come home from an event, made a really solid connection, and then couldn't find the card?
Right.
Or someone said to you, hey, you know, we're booking about 8 months out. For that time frame, you need to contact us in 3 months, and you don't remember because you don't have a calendaring system on your booking system, right?
Right.
Fulfillment, your pre-gig packing list, your post-gig completion list, you know, all of these little things that will make your life easier.
So let me ask you, no, this is great. This is great. I like that you're being really specific. So let me ask you this. Are you the kind of coach that goes, oh, you need a system. What do you think you should do? Are you the kind of coach that goes, you have a system and here's what I've seen works with my clients. Do you have like ideas how these things should run, or you know, somewhere in between, or
I'm a
you know what I'm
little
saying?
bit of both. I'm a little bit
Okay.
of both. What I'll usually do with someone who wants to create a new system. Truth is, you've already got systems for all these things. If
Mm-hmm.
you're doing those things, you've got systems. They just aren't necessarily optimal,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and they're not delegatable because they live in here.
Right.
And what happens when you take the system out of your brain and put it on paper, there's a lot more room in there
Right.
for creativity
Right.
because you're not
Right.
having to remember everything, right? You have a
Right.
checklist. You just go through the checklist. You don't have to remember everything. What about the batteries for my mic? What about the, or whatever, right? It's all in the system. You don't have to remember it.
Right.
But I lost my train of thought. Where was I
That's
going
okay.
with
That's
this?
okay. Well, let's go. Let's go. No, this is great. That was helpful. Let's go to. You answered the question.
Well,
Let's go to.
actually, let me give you one other piece that I like to
Okay.
share with musicians
Great.
who don't just say, when do I get to play my music, but also say, I'm artistic. I need to be free. I don't want all this structure. I want to be able to express and go with the mood. Let me ask you this question, David. Have you ever written a song without choosing the key first?
Yes.
But before you get very far into it, you have to have picked a
Oh,
key,
at a
right?
certain point, I do. I mean,
You might be,
well,
doodling around, but once you actually start,
I guess I
because
mean that what the problem is, if it's a problem, is that I have an idea for a song and it's a melody in my head, and I have no idea what key it is until I sing it and record it and play it on guitar. Oh, look, I'm
right,
in G. I'm in D again. Okay, right.
but
So
it's
yes,
in a
it,
key.
it's
It's
in a
in a
key.
key.
It's in a key. Yes, I accept
If
that.
you don't have a key, if you don't have the structure of that key,
Yeah.
how do you know? How do you know where to go with it? If you don't have a time signature,
Hmm. Hmm.
how do you know? But even with one key and one time signature, there's so many ways a song can manifest, right?
True. Yeah.
But you
Yeah.
have to have the foundation of that structure.
Right, right. Well, yeah, I mean, so let's sort of move on to the time management thing. And I agree with you. And this is a really kind of a live question, and it's something that when I was coaching people in the entertainment business and Hollywood world, and many musicians as well, we, we figure out I used to figure out, actually for myself, what's the best time of day I should be writing. I had it first for myself, and I tried everything. I was like, okay, mornings, okay, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, okay, weekends, okay, nighttime, okay, and it depended on what my life was. At a certain point, I got to I will do it whenever the heck I feel like it, but although my life is freer now that I can do that, there were times where I had a lousy job that I had to be at by 9 o'clock, and I would write from 8 to 8:30 in the morning, and I'd feel like my day was a win because so the more structure I had, the more structured I had to be with my creativity. So I guess I do encourage people to find that time and
Well, and
be
that's a piece
flexible.
of it.
Yeah.
That's a piece of it. So, one of the things that I talk about in the time management, the top five mistakes of time management that I'm offering for
That
free,
that's going to be our free download for today.
your
Yeah.
little ebook. It's about, I think it's 17 pages.
Oh, great.
So it's a nice little piece. But one of the things I talk about is thinking in terms of categories instead of tasks. So you look at your week, and once you've blocked out the things that like aren't movable, appointments and whatnot, then you've got all this open space. If you know in yourself that you would like to spend, and I'm going to make stuff up here, 5 hours on creativity this week, 5 hours on marketing. Notice I've made them equal,
Hmm. Hmm. Wow.
because if you build it, they won't come if they don't know it's there.
Right. Right. Right.
3 hours on admin, 1 hour on fulfillment, right? Whatever, you know, 5 hours on exercise, 8 hours on self-care, and then there's sleep. 6 hours on relationship, whatever it is, whatever your layout is, this is how much time I want to spend. And then you look at the open space and you say, well, where does that go?
Hmm.
Where's the time block?
Hmm.
Because If you say, well, no, here's my to-do list, and it's huge, and it's not prioritized or organized, and and it's overwhelming, and then you have to make a decision. Every time you've got a chunk of time, what do I feel like doing? What am I going to do? There's something in psychology called decision fatigue. And what a system does for you, any system, is that it takes away 75% of the decisions. You made those decisions when you built the system. That doesn't mean it doesn't have flexibility, that it can't
Could you give me an
jazz
example?
with you.
That's totally cool. I love it. Can you give me an example?
Well, this call came up very last minute, right? Yeah. And this time slot was actually set aside for me to be writing on my on a book that I'm working on. Well, I'm not. I'm doing marketing. I'm working with you. This is a marketing activity, so it would go under my marketing heading. So how do I make up that time? I look at when the next time I have a marketing slot in my not in my calendar, in my, let's see if I can put my fingers on it really quickly. I think it's over here.
Okay, great.
So this is my time map. This is my standard time map, and then I edit it for this week. And then I went in and I whited out what I planned on doing for this hour and what I planned on doing for the first hour, which was to set up the free handout. And then I don't have any more marketing set up for this week. So next week, I'll make sure I put in an extra, not marketing, product development. I put in an extra product development slot. So I make up the time to myself.
Right. So you have structure.
Doesn't mean I'm not flexible.
You have structure with flexibility.
Yep.
Okay.
And what then happens is that thing that I want to do, working on my book, which has no external deadline, doesn't just fall away because other things keep taking its spot. I defend it because it's there and I see it.
Right. That makes perfect sense. That makes perfect sense. So let's address like that kind of concept to now that we're kind of in this COVID lockdown. Like people have kind of more time, sort of more time, and they're more home. But like what are you seeing and what are you recommending in ways to deal with what we're in right now?
This comes up a lot for people, not just in this environment, but for example, I've worked with military vets who are just coming into retirement and decided they wanted to become entrepreneurs. And they went from a highly structured environment in which they were told what to do, where to do it, when, into an environment in which it's wide open. And what ends up happening is this.
Right.
Because there's nothing you don't have a spine, there's nothing holding you up.
Yeah.
And so building that structure saves them. It saves emotionally because it can be very depressing.
Right.
And, so this isn't the only time when people go from a more structured environment into a less structured environment. Any startup coming out of a corporate world is having that experience. Anyone going into retirement is having that experience. And the thing that solves it is to set up your own structure that matches who you are organically, has been experimented with enough to know that it works, or what works and what doesn't for you, because everybody's different. And then also that the results of those experiments are put in place in a way that builds your habits so that the structure becomes habitual. I do a time map every week because my week every week is completely different top to bottom, and I need the structure. I really value the structure. I do better. I'm happier, I'm more productive, I have more energy. I just do better when I'm more structured. I've had clients who didn't, who instead used a different technique where they could kind of go by their mood, but they would check off how many hours they spent in each area so they kept their balance. But they weren't saying Monday, I'm doing this, because maybe they weren't in the mood Monday.
Right.
But
So
if by the middle of the week they hadn't spent any time in that area, then they would put that in.
Right. So everyone's got to find their own way of creating a structure and giving themselves flexibility within that.
Correct.
That's great. That's great.
And the other thing about time management, have you ever done any time management workshops or tried to
Oh yeah,
use
absolutely.
anyone?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, like
See,
the David Allen stuff. It's like
right.
great.
Stephen Covey's stuff.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah.
absolutely. I tried a lot of that stuff too until I found Julie Morgenstern, who we bow down to as the goddess of time management.
Oh, great.
And there's a link to her book in the
Oh, beautiful.
PDF
Great,
of
great, great.
that I gave you. So
Is this
what
she
she
who wrote?
does,
Did she write that book? Don't check email in the morning.
no, time management from the inside out. It's
Okay, great.
completely, it's about discovering and experimenting and finding what works for you. It's not about, all of these other systems, someone's figured out a system that worked for them and they thought, hey, this is great, I'm going to sell it to other people. But it's their system, not yours. If
Right,
you don't
right.
make it yours, it's never going to work for you. And so her whole approach is designing your system based on who you are and how you operate and what works for you, and then testing it.
So yes, no, that's great. That's great. I'm glad you're giving that link. I mean, so let me ask to try to push the envelope with the most free-floating, free-spirited creative music person who is the least able to handle or I don't know, work within structure. I mean, guys, partly I used to be a film producer. I'm totally down with like dum da dum da dum da dum da dum,
You
and
can't
also
make a film without it.
you can't make a film without it, right? And like we got 100 people sitting around. Everyone should know where they are going to be. If not, let's work that out. And in my music side, there is this time where of like, oh, there's like I didn't know I was going to have a song idea this morning before I got on the phone with you. And what am I going to do with that? And I've already sung 3 things into my voice memo. So there's got to be this flexibility in our lives, and I found a way to balance it for myself. But how would you approach somebody who's the most structure adverse
Yeah,
to
I get that.
start
I
with
get that.
something? You know what I mean?
So first of all, it's a skill. So a lot of times people are structure adverse because nobody ever taught them the skills, and they failed and failed and failed. And I quit. I'm not going to try and do this anymore because it's just not who I am. And so they attached their identity to it not being who they are, where really it was just they didn't have the right skills for them. They just were missing skills and had never learned them, and people shamed them for that lack of skill, and so they became adverse to it because of the shame and the embarrassment and all that stuff. I get that. I think you have to make your level of success more important than your mood. Because if you want to get to the pinnacle of what your talent will take you to, you need the structure. You're in business.
Wait, that's kind of
Businesses
deep.
don't survive.
Say that again. Say that again.
If you want to reach the pinnacle of success that your talent
I'm sorry. I meant roll
entitles you
back.
to.
The other thing you
Oh,
said about you've got to make your success more important. You're more important than your mood.
That piece. You have to make achieving and accomplishing your success more important than your mood, because the bottom line is you're a business owner, and business is 20% joy and 80% everything else. And that's just the truth. Until you get to a certain level where you can outsource a lot of that 80% of stuff, even though you'll never be able to outsource all of it. You can grow that 20% so that it's 20% of the whole business, but maybe 80% of your life. Right, because you've got other people taking care of the admin and the marketing and the fulfillment details and all of that stuff. But to get there, you need to operate like a business, and you can't do that without structure. Not with consistency, not with the ability to deliver on time to the level of expectations of your customers, clients, and fans.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
sorry if that, makes you
No, it's
unhappy.
true. It's true. I mean, you're reminding me. When I was coaching screenwriters, there was a guy I was working with who he was like, a lot of my days spent just sort of sitting on the couch thinking, staring at the ceiling, and I was like, that's great. So we're going to call that thing couch time. And it was really important. And when his wife came in and said, what is he doing? He goes, couch time, I'm thinking. Couch time was thinking time and writing time. And
Right, but it just wasn't writing words on the page time.
it wasn't that
Yeah.
time. So there's a part that's like this dreamy, what's happening, we don't really know. That's really
So,
important. But you're also right that there's a time to go, this is a business. I've got to make sure I've spent some time printing out my pages or sending it to proofreading or talking to my agent or whatever the business component is.
right, because again, if I don't care how good your music is, if no one's ever heard of you, you're never going to make a penny from it. So if you
Right.
don't market, if you don't follow up, if you don't show up when you promise, if you don't make meetings, if you just, if you don't present yourself as a professional, you are placing a ceiling on your level of success. You'll
Mm-hmm.
never get past it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And
That's
I've
great.
seen incredibly talented artists not get past it because they refuse to remove the ceiling.
Right. Well, and I love how almost back to how we started with you fell asleep listening to your father practicing. So at night, he was a parent, he had a kid, a musician.
He had
He
a
found a
full-time
time,
job.
a full-time
Yep.
job. He found a time to practice and had the benefit of putting you to sleep
Yep.
in a good way.
Yep. He
Playing you
practiced
to sleep.
until he played his violin until 3 months before he passed,
Well,
in
well,
spite of the fact that he had Parkinson's,
well.
because he practiced every single day.
Right. That's beautiful. That's great. So before we go into more about the your free gift and anything else that you want to add that we missed that you still need to share, I mean, we've got a lot of great stuff, and I'm not missing anything, but just anything else you want to say before we talk about your gift.
So I am offering coaching and a big package um, of classes about everything to run your business for 50% off for the pandemic, because I am committed to you artists walking out of this experience so ready to take your business to the next level, so ready to really hit the ground running,
Mm-hmm.
that this time will have been a blessing.
Right.
That's my commitment to you guys.
That's great.
So that's not for private coaching, but for my group coaching program and my Artist Marketing and Business Academy, which has 100+ hours of classes and interviews.
Wow, that's beautiful. That's great. Well, folks, our free download today will be about the time management, 17-page time management, and when you download that, Debra will get your email, and you can contact her through that thing. And I think we'll have some other links in your email today.
Absolutely, there will be links in there for you to explore more. But I just wanted to let everybody know that, and that's until things open back up again. I'm probably not going to change that until we are out of this insanity. So
that's great. That's beautiful. Well, thanks for making that commitment and offer to the larger community. It can seem counterintuitive to focus on structures when there isn't as much money coming in, and at the same time, as you said, like knowing where the money's going to come from and getting our act together for our licensing, our songs, our copyrights, all that stuff. It's important to track that stuff.
I will also tell you, if you're in the film and television composing, there's still that going on.
Yeah.
I mean, my composer client is working hard. That may run out after a bit, But there's enough, I think there's enough in the can from on most channels that they are continuing to do post-production.
That's what I'm hearing, is that film and TV licensing is still happening, and excuse me, TV is back and new shows are going to be coming out. People didn't want to roll things out with such uncertainty that we had the past few months, but now if restaurants aren't necessarily opening up, at least the cable networks are.
Yep.
And there's music on those things, so great.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So this has been really great, Debra. Thank you so much for bringing the structure and bringing your joy of it, and I'm encouraged to work on some of my databases myself.
And so let me just remind you that it's the top 5 time management mistakes that you don't want to be making.
Great.
Or you might already be making and want to fix. So there's some stuff in there for how to fix it. And I look forward to feedback on that little ebook of mine.
That's great. Thank you. And folks, with the summit, if you have some questions about this, maybe we can get Debra into the Facebook group to maybe answer some questions. I would love to hear what you learned today, what you agree with, what you disagree with, what are your own time management skills, challenges. Let's have some discussion about that, because we all work with that every day.
Yep.
Am I going to finish this song? Am I going to get on this phone call? Am I going to finish the new song? What am I going to do? So
Facebook. No. Squirrel. No.
It's true. It's true. Yeah. But come to the Facebook group anyway.
Yeah, I know.
And learn how to get off of Facebook when you have to. I mean, there's a time and a place, right? It's about
Absolutely.
structure and boundaries around that. So,
Absolutely.
all right. So great to have you, Debra. And folks, will see you on the Facebook group. And please send your questions to me, to Debra, about this, and we'll have more conversation about this important topic. Debra,
thanks for having me, David.
You're welcome. So good to have you here. Cheers.